Wieder rein. Loading Video Stream. Okay, jetzt scheint es anzufangen. Ich sehe euch.
Wie uns?
Allerdings. Ja, das Video ist live.
Oh, we are live.
Yes, but I'm visitor.
Yeah, we are live, but we are missing Mario, the MC of the call. So what we can do here, Mario is a visitor. Can we put him in the call?
Yes, here we are.
Mario.
Hey, Mario.
Good to see you.
Hey.
I was quickly on the other side checking in with the crowd. So back here. Wonderful. Good to see you guys. How are you doing?
Good.
How was your day today?
Everything is fine. COVID is not in my head. I did the test yesterday, and I hope we are. Yeah, there's no problems here on my side. Good luck.
Great. How about you, Lisa? How has your day been? Feeling good?
Great. Yes, I got COVID vaccinated on Sunday.
Oh,
So
really?
I have the first shot.
Wow. Congratulations, I guess.
Yes.
I think we here in Germany, in our age group, we're away probably about 9 months or so from that. So congrats.
Thank you.
All right. So guys, I'm very happy to have you here in our 5th crowdcast, the Spaceship to the Moon. And especially a big welcome to Lisa thank you for joining us here, although spontaneous, since some of the listeners may have seen that our speaker changed from Andre to Lisa. So Andre, unfortunately, is sick. And so Lisa was so kind to jump in, and we're very excited to have you, since you are the COO of Hypergrowth, and we're very much looking forward to hear your opinions and about Hypergrowth. So one thing before we jump in, maybe Lisa, is there one fun fact that you would like to share about Hypergrowth, about yourself, about your story, about anything that we in the crowd would need to know?
Well, about me, one of my first growth hacks involved testing the idea of a bot on Twitter. And we thought it was a good idea to do marketing and promote this to get enough momentum for the test. And the chatbot that was meant to be designed wasn't designed. We were the chatbot. So we sat in a back room furiously trying to respond to people. And it was a complete fail. But we learned a lot about what people want in the world of interactive chatbots.
Yeah. Why would you say it was a failure? Was it too overwhelming responses that you got? Did you have a really slow responding chatbot?
No, actually, we thought that we needed to design a chatbot, which would cost tens of thousands of pounds, by the way, to help people with their queries about locations when we were working at Skyscanner. And yes, the whole process was very overwhelming, and we couldn't respond to all the questions. But actually, they just wanted to go to our website, so we just literally need to make a landing page instead of a chatbot. Maybe yes. It was not a fail in that response.
Yeah, yesterday I was involved or invited to a panel discussion in AirMeet, and the company is called OMQ, and they have a chatbot for e-commerce companies. And what I learned yesterday is the biggest problem is not the front end and the chat system. The biggest problem for the companies, for the client, is to put knowledge in the back end, so that the chatbot is knowing all the typical questions and the right answers are matched. That's the biggest problem in the chatbot world.
Yeah, nailed it.
Okay. Great. Yeah. Thanks for the for opening up about your growth hack fail. Maybe later on you can give us some examples of what you found out and what proved to work. Also, that'd be fantastic. So just real quick for the audience, for the ones that haven't seen our previous crowdcasts, who are we here? And we have Lars, who is a co-founder of UFOstart. We have myself as a very happy contributor to UFOstart, and we have obviously Lisa as our guest today from Hypergrowth, CEO of Hypergrowth, and in the background we have Basti managing he's a marketing lead at UFOstart, who is managing all of the of the system, of the crowdcast system today. Today we're going to have 45 minutes more or less crowdcast as usual, where we will get to know Hypergrowth from quite some angles, have Lisa answer some questions. If you guys have questions, please write them in the chat and we will come back to those questions at the end of the cast. In case you're not already, please, on the top right corner, there's a follow button if you want to follow UFOstart and all the crowdcasts that are about to come. Yes, that's basically it. As for the preparation, now I would like to hand over to Lisa just to give a short intro about yourself, where you're coming from, what is your background, so we can kind of understand how where you came from and how you end up at Hypergrowth.
Yes.
And then go directly into the presentation of the Golden Circle, which you were very, very familiar with already, and find out what makes Hypergrowth tick.
Yes.
Make sense?
Yes, sounds good.
Great.
Yeah, I can hear myself feeding back. I'm not sure if you can put yourself on mute or if it's something on my end.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, I can still hear myself. That's not it. I'll figure it out.
You can try headphones maybe if you have.
No, that's fine. I've got it. So I joined Hypergrowth about 6 months ago in a part-time capacity and started full-time 3 months back. We have mighty expansion plans and many clients in the startup sector, whether it's in crypto or B2B or B2C, all wanting the same thing, which is growth program management, growth consultancy, growth talent. So I'm effectively helping us scale up our business to automate as many processes as possible so that we can give those to startups and help them reach exponential growth. So that's a little bit about me, and I'll dive into the presentation.
I believe, yes, here we go. Great.
Can you see this?
Yes, it is a bit small. I think maybe Basti can also share the presentation on the big screen, if that is possible. Or maybe
Basti is lost in space.
Let me try again.
We lost the passenger, maybe.
Yeah.
Apologies, guys. Can you hear me? I'm having some heavy technical issues today. Apologies for that.
Don't stress.
Yes, we can hear you.
Let me try again.
Yes, and we're gonna do it the old-fashioned way. You will have to share yourself. Great. No, it worked out. We can read. We can read it perfectly.
Okay. So, Hypergrowth. Why are we here? We just want to make startups succeed. The failure rate for startups is around 80 to 90%. And most of the time, it doesn't come down to bad ideas, but more startups not having the consultancy or management or support to really reach their potential. So we ultimately democratize the resources available, and we'll do whatever we can to do that. So right now we're offering consultancy, growth program management, growth talent. That might look very different a year from now. How we do that, this is in this order. So we embrace high alignment and high autonomy. We do this by making sure that we have clear goals with everybody that we work with, whether they're in our team or in a startup team, and we integrate together as a fully remote distributed team around those goals. We are fearless in our exploration, so we challenge our startups to go with us through that process to make sure that they have product market fit, that they understand their growth potential, and if there's any big red gaps, that we deal with those before we dive into any type of growth hacking or growth marketing. Once we have the startup primed for growth, we ruthlessly prioritize what we want to test to help them achieve their goals, whether that's an acquisition or ensuring that we have a better conversion. And then we launch into growth hacking and experimentation, which is exactly what it sounds like. We scope every idea and we put it through a certain framework to make sure that it has a clear hypothesis and criteria for success or failure. And then we run small experiments to validate big campaign ideas so that we don't spend a lot of money or time on the wrong things. We embrace failure as part of that. So we ask everybody to go bravely into the testing environment, and we ask that everybody has fun. So if we ever feel like we're not having fun anymore, we go back to the drawing board and figure out why. And that could be we've set the wrong goals, we've put ourselves into too many KPIs, or stretched ourselves too much, or we've just started a good thing at the wrong time, which is okay too. What we do, so right now we grow startups through consultation services, normally helping them figure out what they need to do before they launch a platform, or before they scale up, or before they position themselves to fundraising rounds. We build fully remote teams from our wide collective of experts, depending on startup needs. We offer mentorship, truly scalable methodologies in terms of having core processes that any startup can use to determine their growth potential, setting goals and OKRs, and reporting against that process. We also partner with startups and our collective of talent for equity and cash. So we very much believe we're in it with our startups and differ from any agency, because we'll never try and upsell anything that they don't need, because we're in this risk with them as well. So we want them to spend what little cash they do have on only the best investments at the time. Yep. Does that cover it? I can also do our little pitch, but we can maybe pause if you want to talk about that a bit.
Sure. So thanks for the introduction to the Golden Circle. And there's like one thing that I think I got right. Not sure the sound quality wasn't perfect. Is that you go back to the drawing board when the fun is missing. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yes. So this would be that makes kind of an interesting question mark in my mind, where this is coming from. Like, what's the root of that? And it somehow points to the why, I believe, probably at the core of the circle. But yes, that I would love to hear more about this part.
Yeah. So we are really passionate about helping people and making sure that they work. So putting in hard work and long hours isn't the kind of thing that stops fun. What stops fun is lots of red tape, misalignments, communication gaps, that kind of thing. Or we've just picked up a great idea without scoping it properly. So that leads to frustration. So that's what I mean when I think we need to come back and review why we're doing it and realign before we get back up and continue, or put it back in the backlog.
So what would you say are the kind of 3 classics that many get wrong, that suck out the fun of the whole enterprise? Kind of what's your experience for that?
Yeah, there's such classic ones actually. So if you're not aligned on a goal, you all race off energetically in different directions with different misinterpretations of things. And it sounds a bit of a hurdle to all sit down in a room and agree on a goal before you set off. But time and time again, in the last few months, in the last few years, in my whole time throughout marketing, I've seen that teams burn out, get frustrated because they either spread across too many goals or they don't have a clear North Star metric.
Yeah,
I see heavy nodding on Lars's part.
yeah, absolutely, and that's I think that's the biggest problem for all startups. They have so many ideas, so many missions. The market is big, and you can grab every tiny possibility, and but it's a startup. They don't have resources, they don't have money, and they have to focus on one goal. And that's, I think, it's the biggest problem for startups, to test what in which direction we can push really fast to reach the goals. So I have a question too. The vision and the mission is really strong, and it's a big challenge, I think. What skills are needed in your team, and what skills are needed at a typical startup on the other side? What you can, with which parts you work, what is the most important skill in the team?
So I'd actually say it's not even skill, it's mindset. So anything can be learned, as far as I've seen so far. But if a co-founder or founder is adamant on a thing being a certain way, or they have a set way of working that doesn't promote collaboration because everybody has to go through the hippo, which is the highest paid person in the room, then that's just not going to work. So I personally now need taking calls with every single one of our clients and ask them very hard questions about what their goals are, what their tolerance for pain is, what their tolerance for failure is, because a lot of that will happen as we find our road to success. And if it really excites them, then I go, you're my type of crazy person, and let's do this. And they can learn the rest. They're very eager to learn about metrics and growth hacking, and you know from all the resources available that that's very easy to do, but you can't change your mindset. So
I think the biggest problem in startups today is the combination of technical experience and marketing skills, and maybe a little bit empathy. So I think that's a big problem, to find a guy who is responsible for the technical conversion setup. What is your feeling there? What is it as a person? I'm searching for people like this. Do you can use HTML a little bit and JavaScript, but have marketing skills too, and that's It's I'm missing this skill or person every time in every startup.
So what we do when we first start working with a client is assess who's already in their team, and that's normally a CTO or a CPO, depending on if they're tech or product led, and then the CFO or the boss or the CEO. There's probably only 2 of the 3 co-founders you need. And then, yes, it's a bunch of engineers with 0 interest or ability to do that type of thing. So our unique selling point is that we have access to exactly that person. So if you want to speak after this, Lars, we can gladly set you up. We have a backbench of
pitch.
CRM, CRO, SEO, PPC, in DeFi and blockchain experts that can help come in, uncover your problem or opportunity, and show you how to fix it as they fix it. So they can leave behind the documentation that you need to keep running those processes, or full-time bringing someone like that in.
Okay, bored. So.
Great. Changing just quickly the focus on, since we're at the intersection, like as well, Hypergrowth and UFOstart, we're at the intersection of marketing and blockchain. Just because, it is very interesting that how very different people, from many different walks of life end up in the blockchain space. For you personally, when and how did you get first in touch with blockchain that led you to your current position?
So a few years ago, I had been working in a traditional marketing environment, and you could just do it in your sleep, like launch campaign across all medias, not even all digital, negotiate with the same buyers every year, and just run the same thing. And I live in Edinburgh, Scotland, and it's a bit of an incubator for startups. And I came across a startup called Money Dashboard. It's a fintech startup, and that exposed me to the new world of banking in a different way, and it scared me, and I loved it. So I joined, and within the first 6 months, unfortunately, we had to put a pause on all marketing budgets, and we had to let the 3 of us go. And so I found my way to Skyscanner, but that was my first heady interaction with fintech. And then about a year ago, I started talking to Andre, who's our CEO of Hypergrowth, and he was talking about, these scaling problems that the crypto and blockchain and DeFi spaces encounter with growth and marketing. And I just fell in love with the idea of doing that again. And that's how I came back to it. So ex-journalist, traditional marketer, plonk. I bought my first
basically
3 months ago.
One question from my side. I know Mario lives in Bulgaria, in Sofia, I think, and where you met. You are in Edinburgh, and
Yes.
what I really love in the blockchain world is that it's so decentralized. All of the people are working remote, and most of them I never had a meeting with them in real world, so I never met them in the real world. So where you met, why you have trust to Andre that you work together on a C-level. So.
Yes. So when COVID hit, I had been very much a in the office person. I don't believe in remote working, especially seeing the pain points, having orchestrated a lot of our programs at Skyscanner. And then COVID hit, and I could see it was absolutely possible. Like, you have the constraints, you deal with it because you have to, and suddenly no one complains about the same things. And collaboration is completely possible across multiple time zones. And so when it came time for me to start thinking about somewhere else, instead of starting in Edinburgh, Scotland, I searched the world on AngelList, which I think a lot of people are familiar with here. And that's how I came across Andre, and he'd been hired for this position for the best part of 6 months. So we did agree to kind of do a get to know each other courting for a few months, which I really loved because it meant to shape the role as I wanted and as he felt was good. And I started full time in January, and everything has changed completely again in the last few months. So it's just a constant, rapid evolution that Andre and I are just kind of holding on for dear life, going through together and trying everything that works and scaling what does, and just eating our own dog food when it comes to growth experimentation on our own business.
So basically, if I understood correctly, you were bored in your previous environment, always repeating the same things. You were looking for a challenge. You did find a challenge. So next follow-up question would be, what is your biggest challenge right now that you're probably very excited about? But yeah, what is this? What is that about?
So many of the startups we're talking to are super excited, and they have 6 to 12 months runway. And it's really sitting down with each one of them now that they've established they've got product market fit and an audience that wants to buy into the product, and trying to just get them to focus on the 1 or 2 things that will get them 6 to 12 months more runway. So they often come to us, like, I've just read Growth Hackers, or I've read UFOstart, like I'm so ready to lean, but I want a all-seeing, all digital marketing, all data science-led team for the budget of half a person 1 month, for example, or various different issues. And we have to be very creative about actually dissecting what the actual goal is and saying that back to them, agreeing it, and then going with what's realistic.
Okay, got it. So to work with the startups directly, that is, as diverse as the startups are, I guess, so ever changing challenges, and getting the founders aligned on what to focus on. Okay. As for the audience members that are listening, do you have any, like, maybe, I know everything is kind of individual on the case by case hacks, but maybe you can open the treasure chest and give some recommendations for our audience. What would be like growth hacks that you can that worked in cases that you know of, that you advised on to try out with maybe very limited budget that actually worked?
Yeah, so I'm going to deem on in the growth hacking world, they say that every growth hacker has a T-shape, and there's sometimes long T with a short core or deep core, and my deep core is in content marketing. So almost everything up until about 2 years ago was content oriented, and content is largely free. So I would say that nailing your golden circle about what you're trying to achieve, and then manifesting that into a single piece of content and testing that with one small audience and determining how successful it is, whether that's like buying through to your product or signing up to a newsletter for more, can quickly help you validate if you've got a product worth building on or not, or if you've already got that great product, scaling to many more markets. So content marketing is a great free testing channel for the most part, depending on where you put it. And as long as you set great metrics, you always have something to come back to that data. So any startups or growth hackers out there going, we just don't have any budget, just write a thing, see what happens, set clear expectations for what you want to happen, and if it doesn't go well, then pivot and try again, or come up with a new idea. And I know we've got some content marketing people on today. We've got Vasilina. So there's people that can chip in with tips about how to set that up.
So in order to is there anything that founders or early teams can do to set a foundation for their growth and growth marketing, right? So they're better prepared and set up for testing these tools.
Yeah. So before you even get into setting up technical channels to test or anything like that, I think the whole team needs to be really clear, and this comes back to the foundations of being really clear on goals. Like, what is the single goal as a business that you're trying to achieve, and orientate all your ideas and experiments around that. So it's like absolutely clear that you're all tracking towards the same mission. So if that's on retention or activation after acquisition, you constantly are seeing little results from all the things that happen thereafter. Once you're all clear on the goal, you can set clear experiments based towards that goal. So any hypothesis, the results linked to laddering up to that goal in some way or another.
Okay. What in your from your experience, since you come from the traditional marketing and went into the blockchain marketing space, what in your opinion and experience is kind of the fundamental are there, and if so, what are kind of the fundamental differences between spaces? Between the traditional and the traditional world where you came from and the blockchain marketing space where you're operating in now.
Yeah, so I've always found growth marketing like a great approach. So focusing on the pirate metrics, I'm not going to try to say it, but our acquisition, activation, all of the rest. And I found that challenging just in the travel sector and in the normal marketplace. But when you come to blockchain and DeFi, the rules just get thrown out the window a little bit. So you need huge volumes of people to join a blockchain or crypto type startup project to get the funds that you need to keep going. But to acquire those users in the normal world, you just set up a PPC campaign if you have the budget that might pipe traffic to it. But you've got two issues there. You've got trust, so people land on it, and you're basically asking them to put money into it that they've never done before, or they've recently things we've been seeing is you can't actually advertise as much as you would like on those paid channels. You have to put more emphasis on acquisition via community growth, and this is something Lars and I were speaking about earlier. It's like you have to actually go right back to like genuine marketing, like genuinely and organically grow your audience, which is the harder way, but ultimately it's what in the traditional sector, that's what we should be doing, because our over-reliance on paid is going to kill out a lot of startups, even if they've scaled hugely, because eventually Google Ads will just, own them. So what is particularly tricky, I think, is the community side, and I was going to speak a little bit more about that and how we actually build a community around a product to help drive momentum.
From my experience, the approaches are different, but the mistakes the same.
Yeah.
Okay, let's check in. I just had a look at the clock, and we're already pretty far in. Maybe we check with with the questions from the audience, just so we don't forget about that. Okay, right. We covered the question that's in here already, like the difference between marketing a blockchain project and a non-blockchain based project, kind of. Then we have another question that was asking what is kind of what is in your story, right? I guess that's what it's about. The most serious setback that you experienced.
Personally,
I think the question goes towards Hypergrowth, right?
yeah.
As a company, but since you're still pretty new and may not know about all the setbacks or not aware yet, I think it's also very valuable to share personal setbacks, just to see how to deal with it and how to get out of it. Yes.
Yeah. Just thinking of the last months, weeks, I had this vision that we could just set a really clear goal for our business and just run with it, and that defined certain products. And already some of those products have actually evolved to be backlogs that we can focus on other things. So we truly did go and test all the things, prioritize the right things. But I thought it would be a lot more simpler. Like we just follow the plan, spend time in the war room, defining the goals, doing all the right things, read the book, and just go rinse and repeat until we get success. But the demand for things is constantly changing. So startups more and more, for example, need less full-time growth consultancy, which you might have focused more time on providing, and more just ad hoc mentoring. So we want to provide more mentoring services now. So you build out a huge repository of programs and structures and things they can use. No, they don't want that. They want someone on the phone that we can ask real questions before they go into a fundraising meeting or hire someone. So I suppose it's just taught me not to invest too much time before you actually gauge it with people, and to remind yourself that it's constantly changing. So what worked yesterday might work today and won't work tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing. This experience, I think, is exactly where the juice is, right? Where we can learn when sharing these kinds of experiences. Do you have any last kind of a takeaway, plea, whatever, for our listeners, something that you want them to take away from this before we wrap it up?
So I think if you're in the blockchain world and you're finding it hard to find your place, go back to the golden circle or your why, and really figure out why you're doing it and what differentiates you from everybody else doing it. And you might, from going through that process, realize you need to partner with people to achieve a common goal. That could be other businesses or peers doing that. Or if you've got traction and you're running out of budget, please read Growth Hacker by Sean Eggers and become more of a growth hacker in the market.
Okay, great. Yeah, I love that you embrace the golden circle so much, because it's also our belief. This is at the very core of, things will get messy, things will be difficult, and people will want to quit. But if the core is strong, if the why is strong, these things can be overcome. If it's not strong or non-existent, not talked about, not developed, then things fall apart. So yes, I very much agree. We also live a similar mindset. I think I'm talking for all UFOs at least in here in the call. So yes, I guess that thank you very much from my side. Lars, do you have any last remarks?
Yeah, I want to add something to the Golden Circle. I think when you see the video from Simon Sinek on YouTube, you think the first thought is, okay, it's really easy. Yeah, I have to write it down, why, how, what. But if you brainstorm with your co-founders about the Golden Circle, and if you have to focus on some goal, and it's really difficult to find an easy understanding sentence that all your employees, the customers, can understand. And I think for me personally, I did it so often, more than 100 times maybe, and it's so difficult for me. And every time I have to use Simon Sinek's books and blog posts again and again. So I think it's important to do this for every founder, to be focused and clear in the message. So yeah. And something to add here, the biggest hot topic in the blockchain world are the NTFs right now. And do you experience with an NFTs? Sorry, NFTs. Do you experience with NFTs? Because yesterday, my woman, my wife is a photographer. We set up our first NFT, and it was really complicated and expensive.
I'm gonna have to get Andre to come do his talk.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not even gonna pretend to figure out that I know what you're going through, but maybe some framework to figure out how you get it done will help.
All right. Great, guys. I guess we call it a day, and remind everyone listening to check out Hypergrowth, right, on the website. We have we'll put the link again in here in the chat, and you can always find it in the description. Also, please don't forget to follow us. We'll have more interesting guests every second week in our UFOstart crowdcast. That being said, thanks a lot, Lisa, for jumping in so spontaneously, and wish you all the best on this rocket ship that is Hypergrowth.
Thank you. I'm so excited and so good to see you.
And the video is